Welcome to the Big Movement Podcast. If you're ready to create results and make huge strides in your business, finances, personal development, and health, then you're in the right place. Pushing past excuses and powering through procrastination can be a challenge alone. Here, you'll get the support, tools, and knowledge you need to get to the level you desire in your business and life. Let's get started with your host, Byron Ingram.
And welcome to another episode of the Big Movement Podcast. Today we have Tracey Osborne, who is the entrepreneur's secret weapon. She's an accomplished virtual assistant for over 9 years. She specializes in all those strategic things that we need in our business, such as the online business management, launches, funnels, and telesummits. So those things that you really need to grow your audience, she handles them for you. So let's give a warm welcome to Tracey. So Tracey, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me, Byron.
Sure, definitely. So how did you get into this world of all the back-end systems of being a virtual assistant? Because you have to have a special mindset, I think, to just deal with it day in and day out for so many different people.
Yeah, I ask myself that on a daily basis. No, I'm just kidding. No, I started my business 9 years ago. It turned 9 in November. And at the time, I was working as a vice president of a financial institution, a very small finance company, and hated it. Hated being away from my family all the time. I was working 68 hours a week. Spending far too much time in my car because I live outside of Atlanta, so the commute was killer, and I wasn't happy. The money just wasn't worth it. And so I spoke to a friend of mine. We were having coffee one day, and I was whining to her. And, she said, your passion is helping other people. You're always saying, how can I help you? And you're always helping these people with their programs, their projects, their whatever, and you're not getting paid for it. You need to become a virtual assistant. And back then, nobody knew what a VA was. There was almost nothing on the internet. So, I thought, well, working from home does sound nice. Why not? So I went home. This was on a Saturday. I went home, did what little research I could, built probably one of the world's most hideous websites, and by Monday my business was born.
Wow. So why would you say it's like one of the world's most hideous websites?
Oh my God, it was, I really wish I had screenshots. It was terrible. I used the GoDaddy, it was GoDaddy, I can't even remember what it was called, Website Launcher or something like that. It was like a drag and drop program. I had no idea about copywriting. I called the company Your Virtual Round to It. Nobody knew what that meant. They didn't get that whole, for those projects that you always say when you get around to it. So I was having to explain it. I mean, it was terrible, but it was out. It was there. It was something. And it listed, some services and, talked about pain points. So it wasn't, at least it was something. And it worked.
Right.
I've been through, I'm on my, I think, 4th or 5th version of websites now. But, as I evolve and the company evolves, the websites change and evolve as well. So it worked. It got me business.
Right. Well, that's what matters in the beginning, that if something gets you business and that you realize that it has to evolve, because everyone starts with that one site that down the road you look at and think, wow,
what was
that got me business.
How did that get me business? Luckily I was a huge networker in Atlanta and so many people knew who I was. So when it came time to doing this, I just told a few key people who were also very big networking players. And, I was able to quit my job within 2 months.
Wow.
Yeah. So that I had that going for me. Being very well known here.
Well, that makes a difference, because I think sometimes what people fail to realize is that your network is one of the most powerful things, especially when you're just getting started in business, because those are the people that already know who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. So that no trust factor was already formed.
Right, exactly. So, versus you start building up the marketing funnels to get people coming to you, as that takes that technology, that expertise. And you think about a lot of the things you do today, so many of them, they didn't exist 9 years ago.
They didn't. When I worked for the company, I started a weekly newsletter Actually, no, I think it was a monthly newsletter. It was called The Growth Factor, and I had everybody else write it for me. So all my people in my circle, I had them submit articles, and then I put this thing together and I sent it out to my list. And this was back in the pre-canned spam days when you handed me your business card, you were going on my email list because I didn't know any better.
Yeah.
And people loved it. They absolutely loved it. And it was done in Constant Contact. So Constant Contact was really the first website, or the first, not website, but the first platform I actually really ever worked in as far as internet marketing goes. So, and then I graduated to Shopping Cart from there, and now I deal pretty much solely in Infusionsoft. But yeah, so it's funny how things evolve.
Right. It's kind of funny when you think about it. If there was that time that you were excited about email, like, yes, I got an email. And then you're like, seriously?
Now you're like, stop emailing. Oh my God, I got a letter. Somebody put a stamp on an envelope. Woo! Go me.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just amazing how that switch happens because, you think about that writing a letter, no one does it. So if you see like, it's not junk mail, it's not a coupon, it's actually someone who took the time to communicate with me with that letter. Like, yay, you're excited.
Yeah, they don't want money. It's not a bill.
Right, like, you mean you don't want something? Okay, I'll read this.
Right?
So it changes.
Yeah, so handwritten note cards still work, guys. Handwritten note cards still work. People are like, wow, that person actually took the time to sit down and write out a card, or even go and send out cards and create a card and send to me. Cool. So.
Right. Exactly, because it's the thought that counts, which makes a tremendous difference at the end of the day.
Right, and that is something you can delegate to your virtual assistant.
Right, exactly. So now, why the virtual assistant world? Because, if you have this background and all the possible things that you could end up doing, it's like, virtual assistants.
Right,
how did you end up on there?
Well, like I was saying, it was my passion. My passion is always, how can I support you? How can I help you? I had started going to school to get my degree in accounting. I was going to be a pencil pusher. If I had actually, I'm 1 year away from getting a double major, or a bachelor's with a double major in finance and accounting. And I decided I don't want to go that direction anymore. I don't want to go that area. So, in the beginning, honestly, this was a way for me to support my family, work from home, and help other people. And it's still that. But I love the technology. I'm very good with technology. I'm very technologically inclined. I pick stuff up very quickly. I love the challenge. And that's one of the things that it had appealed to me with accounting, was that it wasn't, just the same repetitive thing. There was challenges. You had to make sure that everything balanced and figure out, this, that, and the other. So it was kind of like a puzzle. And the same thing is true in the online world. I'm not one of those that I just sit here and wait for you to send me work to do. I'm out there strategizing. I'm out there creating the launch plans. As an online business manager, I'm always, trying to figure out ways to grow my client's business and things like that. So there's still that challenge, and every day presents new challenges, and I never know what's going to come at me. Today is a technology day. Everything can go wrong, and technology is going wrong, and that's okay. It's a challenge. It's, my VA and I sit down and it's like, okay, well, this website doesn't want to work. What do we do? How do we fix it? So it works for me.
Right, exactly. You have to figure out those things that work and leverage your strengths, your skill sets that you're able to truly help people with. And that's awesome.
Exactly. And, and my skills are limited in certain areas. I am great in the strategy side. I am great in the management side. I am great if you want simple funnels created. If we're going to create like full on beautiful, massive sales pages, I have a team for that because that's their skill set. So I leverage other people's skill sets in my business as well, just like my clients are leveraging mine.
Well, and that's key because not one single person can be the master of everything.
No. So, there's virtual assistants out there who can do a lot. And like me, I can do so much. I call them the Jack or Jill of all trades. The problem with that is the whole saying, Jack of all trades, master of none. And so,
Right.
they tend to know a little bit about a lot of things. And I went that route for a very long time. And so I do know, quite a bit about a certain number of things. But then I decided it was time for me to master in certain areas. And so those are my
Right.
specialties.
Right. Well, and that's the key thing, is that it's important, especially if you're in the strategy role, to understand how all the different moving pieces work together. But then you don't need to have the mile deep knowledge and everything, such as, I think about if someone needs a website. Can you build a basic website? Sure. But if someone wants all these bells and whistles, well, that's when you have a web developer do all those things.
Yes.
But you understand.
I don't know how to do
it
those.
does.
I know the basic. Yeah, I know the basic concepts of a lot of things when it comes to stuff like that. I know what I'm looking for. I know what we want. I may not exactly know how it works and how to do it. And I'm one of those that wants to know. I'm like, show me, show me, show me. I'll probably get in there and break it and make you fix it, but I still want to get in there and play, right? I'm one of those that like takes the remote control car apart to figure out how it works. That's me with a website. But so and that's how you should run your business. You have your strengths and the things that you should be doing, and those things that you shouldn't be doing, especially that aren't directly tied into bringing in money, bringing in income, you should be delegating and leveraging somebody else's skill set and letting them shine with the things that they can do.
Right, exactly. And that's so important, because too many times I think entrepreneurs, where they get stuck at is there's this level of control that people have to give up. Like, but I like it done a certain way. But the key is that if you're not the expert at it, then even though you think you want it a certain way, it might not be the best way.
Exactly. So there's two things around that. Number one, great. You want it a certain way. That's where your standard operating procedures come into place. This is how I want things done. But then, like you said, you need to keep an open mind, because I might come in, you may be doing it this way for years, and that's the old way of doing things. And then I can come in and say, look, here's a fresh new perspective. This is what I've done in the past. This is what I'm doing now. This is what I've seen done. Why don't we incorporate X, Y, Z? And these are the results that we can expect. So you have to be open to those fresh new ideas.
Right, exactly. And that's so critical. You have to be open to new ideas, because technology and the way that people communicate is constantly evolving. You think about the way that you first would add people to an email list, years ago. It's like, oh, you give me your business card, you're on my list. Now to, that's probably not the best way to go about doing it.
Right? That's the fastest way to get blackballed nowadays. So you've got to be open. And as far as the whole control thing, I have the same problem. It's took me a long time before I started outsourcing work to VAs, because I felt like I was the only one who could do it. And now it's, I can. I may not like to do it. It may not be what I like to do. So why not let somebody else do it, who they love to do that kind of thing. They do it faster and better than I do. And my clients are still happy.
Right, exactly. Because the most important thing is looking at the result that you want to generate. And then it's up to you to figure out what's going to be the best path to get there. The things that you can do, which you're great at, and then have the other people do it. I always use the example, you think about, let's say, Henry Ford with building cars way back when.
Right.
Could he have done everything himself? Yes, but that wasn't efficient. It was better to have himself surrounded by the experts in every single area, so it was a better product at the end of the day than he could ever have built by himself.
Right. You can't be an expert in all areas as much as you really want to be. It's almost impossible. And you can't be in all areas. There's only so much you need to go around. There's only so many hours in a day. And you really need to focus your skills and your strengths on those things that, number one, only you can do. Only you can work with your clients. Only you can host your podcast. Only you can create new products and get out there and speak and things like that. And those other things that have to get done, let somebody else do them.
Right, exactly.
There's a term that we use in accounting called opportunity cost. And what that means is, what is this going to cost you? So if you are sending out your newsletter, and you're spending 3 hours to get your newsletter sent out, and your coaching rate is $150 an hour, So that's $450 that you lost because you're spending 3 hours to do your newsletter. You could have paid somebody $35 an hour to send that out. Probably would have taken them, an hour to send that out. So,
Right.
how much money did you lose, by doing it yourself? So you need to look at that. What am I going to lose by doing this myself, as opposed to outsourcing it and spending a few bucks here when I could be making 3, 4, 5 times that amount by doing what I do.
Right. And that's where people get stuck at, is they're in that constant grind and they don't see the value that if they're freed up to do something else, well, then they can go and generate more revenue. Because I think where people get lost is that they forget there's revenue generating activities and then there's just the activities. So the more just, the quote unquote activities, if you can get someone else to do them, all the better.
Yeah.
And that's so critical.
Absolutely. And you can only take your business to a certain level by yourself. After that, it's going to stagnate. You're going to get completely overwhelmed. You're not going to be able to service your clients properly. Balls are going to get dropped. Things are going to get missed, and your business is going to tank. It's inevitable. Right. You don't see the Jeff Walkers and the Bill Barons doing everything themselves. They don't. Right. They create their programs. They do their coaching. They host their webinars. They create their videos. Their team does all the rest of it. They might write their copy, but in most, I would imagine probably most of them have copywriters, to help out with copy. So they're not building these 7-figure businesses because they're doing it themselves.
Right. It's something that stage of growth that people go through. There's that inception phase when, obviously, because you're just getting started, you're going to do a lot of things yourself.
Of course.
But then as revenue starts coming in, you have to look at what are those tasks that you can start hiring somebody for, so it frees you up to do other things. Mm-hmm. And then you just keep building up, like, okay, what's the most basic thing? Like, and just create those little layers. Like, okay, here's that first layer, the stuff that I'm now going to have somebody else do. Then that next one, and the next. Before you know it, you're not having to do any of that grunt work anymore. You have someone doing it for you, where they shine at it. But it's
and they love
value ladder to do it. Right.
I used to love sending out. Yeah, I used to love sending out newsletters and doing that kind of stuff in the beginning. I absolutely loved it. I don't anymore because, my skills have gone elsewhere. But there's people out there, they love doing that kind of stuff. Let them.
Right, exactly. You have to tap into that passion because it makes sense.
Yeah.
So obviously, you're an online business manager. Some people might be thinking, well, what in the world is that? Well, so tell us, what in the world is an online business manager?
So an online business manager, or OBM, it's a virtual assistant on steroids, right? So you can almost liken us to a chief operations officer of a corporation. We're the ones making sure that everything is getting done. We're managing the team. We're managing the projects. We're helping to create those strategies and the systems. We're looking at the analytics. So we're analyzing the numbers. We're looking at other ways to generate revenue. We're managing the clients. We're doing everything. So we're basically your right-hand person, and we're in there in deep making sure that your business is running the way it's supposed to run.
Oh, excellent. And so many times that's exactly what people need to get their business to where it needs to be at, because some people, they just don't have that focus to be looking at all those pieces, and they need someone like yourself to keep them on track.
Yeah. So generally when you get to about 6 figures, either high 5 figures or low 6 figures, that's typically when you start want to look at getting an OBM, depending on what your business is. But that's generally, because that's about the time you can afford them, for one, because you've got to pay their rates and you've got to pay a VA as well. So you've got to be able to afford to have everything. But that's also when your business is just at that point where, okay, I've gotten into 6 figures. I've done this by myself. Now it's time to let somebody else come on board and help me out, so I can take it to 7 figures.
Right, exactly, because it's all that process so you can have the time to do the things that you need to do. Because if you spend your all day and night building out the technology, then when do you have time to work on, let's say, getting in front of clients or meeting with them and so on.
Exactly.
That's where people get dragged down.
Exactly. I just recently rebuilt my website, and I started doing it myself because I can. And I thought, well, it's going to save me a few bucks, right? And I got going on it, and I was like, I don't have time for this. I don't have time to do this properly. So I ended up having my webmaster do it for me. And sure, I paid her, several $100s for it. But I have a beautiful website. I didn't spend barely any time. I think I might have spent 5 hours total working on some of the pages and things. But the rest of the time, and I think she spent, oh gosh, probably 20, 30 hours working on my website. So think about that, 20, 30 hours. That's a lot of time that I was going to take on myself. So I was able to use that time to bring in new clients, work on some new programs, come up with my own marketing strategy for my business, work on my coaching side of my business, so there's a lot of things I was able to do with that, spend time with my family, so it's, you got to look at that. And I think a lot of people, what happens, Byron, is that they get scared about the money. So they're thinking, well, gosh, how much is this going to cost me? And it's going to cost you money, of course. But it's going to cost you money if you don't do it as well.
Right, exactly. There's a cost associated regardless. Either it's the cost that you're paying somebody right there to do it, or is the cost of you're not in front of clients. You're doing that busy work that someone else could really be doing for you instead.
Right. So, yeah. So, there's different levels of virtual assistants. Let's kind of talk about that for a second. You've got the people who are generally just coming into the industry. They don't really have a lot of technical skills, so they do a lot of the admin stuff. They can manage your email, which is, let me tell you, is huge. Absolutely huge. When I started having somebody manage my email, I got like 2 to 3 hours, maybe even more of my time back each week by not having to go through and deal with stuff that I need to be dealing with. So managing your hours, managing your clients. I have somebody who manages my speaking engagements. I just brought I've been doing it myself, and so I forget things and I don't keep track of stuff. So I'm like, it's time I brought somebody else on to do this for me because I'm so busy doing everything else. I don't have time to do that. And that's what she's good at. So, those kinds of skills. And then you have your technical people. They're sending out your newsletters. They're creating your funnels. They're working on your website, that kind of thing. And then we talked about the Jack and Jill of all trades. And that's the one who has been in business for, probably a couple of years. And so they've picked up a lot of little skills in different areas, but they're not specializing. And then you go up into your specialties. So we've talked about the online business manager. You've got your graphic designer, your social media expert, the web designers, the copywriters. A lot of people kind of lump all those under VAs.
Right.
Or virtual professional, if you want to call them that. So, you've got your specialties. And depending on your needs, that's going to depend on, what kind of a VA you hire. Do I need somebody just to manage my social calendar and my email and making sure that I'm where I'm supposed to be and that kind of thing? Great. Then you can look at paying somebody, $25 an hour for that. But as you get into the technical side, I need someone to set up my funnels and work on my Infusionsoft and that kind of thing. You're going to be looking at anywhere from, $30, $35 an hour on up. And when the on up happens, that sounds scary, It does to all of us because we're like thinking of our bottom line shrinking. But the thing I tell people is you have to think about the fact that the more skill set we get and the more experience we have, the faster we do things. So you might pay a virtual assistant $50 an hour to be doing your stuff, and they're going to do more in a 10-hour time block than if you bring in a newbie at $30 an hour. They're probably going to double what a new VA can actually do. It's going to be done faster, more efficient, proper, They'll bring their experience to the table. So there's a lot of value there with the higher end virtual assistants. So I always say don't discount them if your budget can allow for it.
Right, exactly. And that's the key thing, is to identify those needs, so then you can begin learning of, oh, if I want to have somebody build out all my funnels, then it costs, let's say, $100 an hour or whatever it ends up being for that person. Well, then if that's the case, and you know that you're going to need them for 20 plus hours every single month, well, then what do you need to do in your business to create that revenue source that pays for it?
Sure, that could be one client.
Right, exactly. And that's why I think, in terms of a limiting belief people have to get past, is that if there's something you need, especially when you're in business, just ask yourself, what do you have to do that allows you to have that? Whether it's getting a new client, it's selling 5 more products every single month, whatever it is, so then that allows you to scale to the next level.
Yeah, that's a really good way of looking at it, absolutely.
Because, it's so easy to get bogged down in the wrong details, like, oh, well, that seems so much, versus you have essentially an ATM when you run a business. Instead of there being a finite amount in there, you just have to ask one little question: what else do you have to do to be able to generate more, to pull out more? That's it.
I like that. I like that analogy. So
it switches things up a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
So now, obviously, as we're talking, you deal with funnels and all these little fun things. Can you tell people a little bit more why they need a funnel in their business? Because some people may be thinking, a funnel, what in the world is it, that thing you do at parties when you're drinking, or you're pouring oil in your car?
Beer funnel, yeah. I usually say it's not the thing in the kitchen, but yeah, I never thought about, bringing out the old beer funnel. Probably because I don't think I ever used one. But yeah, so a funnel is, you kind of think of it like a traditional funnel, the thing in your kitchen that you pour flour through to get it into a smaller container. It's the way you bring in leads into your business and push them through into your big ticket items. So you're giving them, you're bringing them in with a freebie. It could be a free report, an audio, a video, whatever, something of value that they're going to give you their name and email for. And then they're going to get pushed down, into that funnel. So, the next step is to upsell them into a $7 product, and then a $27 product, or a $47 product. And then you get them onto a webinar and you push them into a coaching program, or whatever your latest program is. So it's the way of weeding out all those people, so that you find your target ideal client at the very bottom, who's willing to get out their credit card and give you the high dollar, pay those for your high dollar items.
Right. And that's key, because having a funnel means you're filtering out the people, because you don't want to work with everybody. You want to work with the most qualified people that are a match for the programs you have.
Mm-hmm. Right. So, you need to identify who those ideal people are. You need to sit down and really craft that out. And so many people skip that step, myself included. I've done it in the past. And when I actually sat down and created, I have 3 different ideal clients based on my 3 levels of business. And when I did that, everything I do and everything you do will go towards that ideal client. Your messaging, your marketing, the certain words that you use, those all will speak to your ideal client. And then, you've got to get out there and find them. And the way to do that is to, send out those freebies, get them on your list. They say the gold is in your list, and they're not kidding, because these people are warm prospects. They've said yes already to at least one thing that you offer. And so they're warmed up. They're getting to know you. You're building that know, like, trust factor. And so as they continue to get to know you through your marketing messages, webinars that you've done, other freebies that you put out, eventually they will buy.
Right. Exactly. So now, obviously, it's important to have these different things. So let's break the funnel down a little bit. in terms of getting people into your funnel, what have you seen like work with your clients work extremely well with attracting people to it? Because obviously just throwing up something like, here, I'm just going to put this one little Facebook post out there is not going to do a whole lot.
So again, you've got to know who your ideal client is, number one, because you need to know what kind of a freebie is going to attract them. So if your ideal client are contractors and you put up a free report for interior decorating, they're probably not going to sign up for that. So you need to know who your ideal client is and create some kind of an enticing free gift that they're going to want. And the way to get them out there or get your message out there, Facebook ads are huge. In the groups that you're in Facebook, a lot of groups have certain promotional days. You can promote in there. If you haven't built your own Facebook community, then build your own Facebook community. Find out who your ideal client is, build your own Facebook group, and you can market the crap out of them. You don't have to wait for promotional days. But, targeted Facebook ads are probably the best way to get the message out.
Right. Oh, definitely. And it's when you think about Facebook ads, the nice thing about them is it gives you that ability to target exactly who you want versus you think of your old-fashioned media. It was, I don't want to say more like the spray and pray method, but that's what it kind of was. You would get as close as you could as possible and put a message out there and hope that enough people hear it or see it that you get an audience.
I throw, or I call it throwing spaghetti at the wall and hoping something sticks.
Yeah, right, exactly. Where you think of it, for example, like radio advertising. Does it work? Sure. But you have to think that you have to have a much larger base of people to reach to find those few diamonds in the rough out there that are going to be interested in your product versus deciding when you know the clarity of who your ideal client is, who specifically should hear that message, and only those people should see it.
And again, your message has to be value. It can't be product. So there was a quote that I used I did a workshop on how to earn more money in 2017 last week. And one of the quotes that I said was, you need to sell the value, not the product, or sell the service you provide, not the product. So people want results, and people who are willing to pay for your high dollar items, your high dollar programs, these are results oriented people. They don't necessarily care about the logistics that they're going to get 4 calls and 3 modules and whatever. They don't, that's all cool. But they want to know, what is this going to do for me? What pain do I have that your product, your widget, your whatever is going to solve?
Right. Exactly. That's what people really want to know at the end of the day.
Exactly.
Because if it solves a problem, they're excited. How it does it doesn't matter. They just want to know that if my phone rings, they don't care. They just know that if it works, they're
exactly.
Awesome. And I think that's where people get stuck at is they're looking at, but they have to know all these things. At the end of the day, most people don't care how it works. They just want to know it works. It's kind of like just say, turning on the lights. Do you really care what type of circuit it is or what type of wiring, all these other things? No, you just want to know that when you hit that little switch, the light comes on. That's
it. Exactly. So, yeah, the same thing holds true in business.
Right.
Yes, you need to put in some of those logistics. They need to know that they're going to have 5 calls. They need to put them on their calendar and block out the time and blah, blah, blah. But, ultimately, they don't care. They just want to know what's in it for me. It's that, what is it? WIIFM, what's in it for me radio. So,
right.
Yeah. Your whole marketing and everything has to speak to that. And so you have to speak to the results. And again, people don't like to be sold, but they love to buy.
Right. Exactly. That's a very well-known expression.
Right.
It just makes all the difference when you think about that philosophy and how you incorporate it into a
It does.
business.
Think about, if you go into a networking function and, Yeah, I used to teach networking skills. So, I always talked about the 3 different types of networkers. And one of them is called what I call the puker. And this is the person that verbally pukes all over you. You don't want to get caught with them. You don't want to be near them, because they're just going to come and, blah, blah, blah. This is what I do. This is, blah, blah, blah. They don't want to hear it. People don't want to hear that. You come up to somebody you've never met before and you start saying, "Hey, I'm Tracey and this is what I can do for you." And it's a complete turnoff. I don't know if you've ever gotten an email or, somebody out there, "Hey, I noticed a typo on your website. And, if you ever want somebody to edit your website, let me know. This is something that I do for a living." I did that in the beginning because I didn't know any better. Now that I know better, I cringe that I used to do that, because people come to me and I'm like, seriously? Great. Thanks for letting me know I have a typo. I don't need you. I do this for a living. If you read my website, you would know that I don't need you. People don't like that. Yeah, okay, let them know you've got a typo or you need something fixed. But there's no trust factor in there. There's nothing. It's just your very first impression is me barfing all over you about what I do and how I can help you. And I don't even know who you are and what your pain points are yet.
Right, exactly. I like to say it's similar to using a dating analogy. If, let's say that, you're at the bar and someone walks up to you, the first thing they say is, "Your place or mine." It's not going to go well.
Right? Wow, yeah. It's been a while since I've been in the dating world, but I'm pretty sure that would get a drink on somebody.
Right. And even if the person says yes, in all probability, it's still not going to go well.
Yeah, exactly. Probably not a good, we call those low-hanging fruit. Right. And sure, you're going to get some, and they're generally not that great.
Right, exactly. So when you think of the clients out there, yes, when you're clear about who you're marketing to, it changes it. So then the people that are, let's say, that low-hanging fruit that you probably don't want anyways, because for whatever reason, you don't have to pick with them, because now you're on a ladder, so you can reach the fruit that you want, versus, well, this is all I can get, so here it is.
Right.
It makes a difference. So obviously you're using funnels in terms of your business and such. How have you leveraged webinars effectively? Because some people are thinking webinars, it sounds complicated.
Oh, webinars aren't that complicated. It takes me maybe an hour to set the whole thing up. And that's, building the opt-in page and getting all the emails out and everything. They're not complicated at all. Webinars are great. They position you as an expert. People get to know you. By the end of the call, they get to like you. They get to trust you. They know that you're knowing yourself. Listen to my English. They know that you know your stuff, that you know what you're talking about. So it's really a great way to sell your expertise. It's not a great way to, it's not that it's not a great way to sell your stuff, but there's a way to do it. So I was on a webinar the other day and I was really excited. It was actually a call about funnels because, just because I put them together doesn't mean I know everything. I'm always learning new ways and looking for new things. And this woman supposedly is like a major funnel expert. She's done thousands of funnels for big names. And I thought, wow, maybe I can pick up some new tricks and new tips from her, right? So I get on this call and she talks about funnels for probably about 20 minutes. And then for the next half hour, I kid you not, was nothing but a sales pitch for her program. And the only reason I hung on was because we were supposed to get some kind of a free gift. If you wait till the end, I'll have this free bonus gift for people who hang on at the end, right? And that's to get you to listen and sit through their sales pitch. So I sat there and I sat there and I sat there and, luckily I was doing other stuff. I was still working and that kind of thing and kind of half listening with, and I thought, and I'm looking at the clock going, is she ever going to shut up about her stuff? Because I'm sure as heck not going to buy it after being, blasted for a half hour after a 20-minute webinar. And then the freebie at the end, I went in, filled my name and email, and I did it. It was like supposed to be a checklist, or I don't remember what it was, but what I got wasn't even what she was offering. So her funnel didn't even work. So I was like, wow. And you call yourself an expert. scary. Yeah. So, there's a way to do webinars and a way not to do webinars. Yes, you want to promote yourself at the end. But people are busy. They don't want to sit there and listen to a 15-minute sales pitch. I start thinking of
Right.
Amway and used car salesmen. And, so, 5-10 minutes tops for your sales pitch. If you can't urge somebody in, 10 minutes to go buy your thing, then there's a problem there. At least in my opinion.
Right.
There might be internet marketers and other people out there who have a whole different opinion, and they might say that the 20-minute sales pitches are great. I personally don't like them. I have too many things to do. So give a massive value for your webinar. Give your sales pitch at the end. Have your little bonus gift so that for those people who toughed it out to the very end. But, the whole thing is you've got to give them value.
Right, exactly. In my philosophy, it's similar to that. You don't want you have to respect people's time, because if they're going to give you an hour worth of that, there's a value associated to that. So if you're going to spend, let's say, 15, 20 minutes just giving your edification about yourself, and then you spend maybe 10, 15 minutes just giving value, there's a problem. Because then it falls by the 20-minute sales pitch. Like, no, that's just not right.
Yeah. And don't start out with a, 5 to 10 minutes about who you are.
Right. My philosophy when it comes to like who I am, it's simple. Like, I'm gonna give you 30 seconds. You really want to know more? Go here on social media and my website, because you're here to learn this, not to listen to me boast about myself.
That drives me crazy when I'm on a webinar and 5 minutes into the call and we haven't even started because they're still talking about who they are. A lot of times,
right. Also gets them back.
A lot of times, I will actually get off the call.
Yeah. So that makes a difference, and then it comes down to you should have this philosophy of always give value, because if you do that from the moment the webinar begins to the time that you're going to put a sales pitch up there, you shouldn't have to spend more than 5-10 minutes talking about it.
Yeah.
Because at that point, it makes a no-brainer. Like, you can do it yourself, but here's what I'm going to help you do so you can get it done faster, so you can achieve those results that you want quicker than you having headaches figuring it out on your own. So
here's a funnel that works really, really incredibly well. It's called the Sideways Sales Letter. Jeff Walker cloned or created it, whatever. And it's a 3-video series. Well, actually a 4-video series. The first 3 videos are incredible value. So 10, 15, 20 minutes of incredible value. Each one hits a specific pain point based on whatever it is that you're teaching. The 4th one can either be a sales video. Jeff does a lot of them where the 4th one is a sales video, or it pushes them into a webinar. So by the time they get to your webinar, they've already been given a ton of value. Then your webinar gives them even more value. And by the end of your webinar, they've got their credit cards out and they're ready to buy. I was on one not too long ago, and I sat through his three videos. I sat through his webinar, and by the end of the call, I was like, I don't have the $2,000 to invest in your program, but I'm whipping out my credit card anyway, and I'll figure out how to pay for it later. Right? Because I know that what you have to offer me is going to substantially increase my business. So, and that's because he'd already provided me so much value with his 3 videos that I was already implementing changes in my business that were going to boost my bottom line this year.
Right, exactly. And I think that brings up something which is so critical in today's world, that people have this scarcity mindset that if they give away too much information, then people are not going to hire them.
Exactly. So, in your videos or in your reports or whatever it is, you're not giving away everything, but you're giving away enough that they want more. So it's, think of it as, I think the term is pink spoon marketing. So for those of you who are familiar with Baskin Robbins ice cream chain, they have these little tiny pink spoons, and you can go into the store, and while you're trying to figure out what flavor you want, they have like 1,000 flavors. you can have samples of each flavor. And so you get a little scoop from this pink spoon, and you can taste every single one of them if you wanted to before you make your decision. And this is kind of the same thing. It's pink spoon marketing. You're giving them a taste of what you do, of who you are, and how you're going to help them.
Right. And that's where it makes sense, because if you give people and they can see how you can truly help them, they're going to be that much more encouraged to invest with you versus someone else, because you've given them that value. Versus someone else, it's, hey, buy my stuff because you're going to like it. Why? Because
Exactly.
I said so.
Yeah, exactly.
And it changes the dynamics of the relationship, that you want to be able to get them to trust you, to know you, to like you. So it makes sense at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
Right, because all those things, that's what matters most, that you build up the trust in creating that funnel to attract people to that webinar so you can make the sales and ultimately grow your business.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, that's ultimately why someone with your skill set of having that business manager to put all the pieces together, so that entrepreneur, that business owner, can focus in on what they are great at, instead of, what is this webinar thingy? How do I set it up?
Right, exactly. So they come to me, they say, I want to do a webinar. Great. When, where, what's the topic? And we do all the rest. Unless, of course, I have the kind of client who wants to write their own copy, and a lot of them want to, and that's great. But that's because that's what they do, and they do that well. They know their target market, and they know how to get their messaging out. But they don't want to put all the pieces together. They just want to do the parts that they do, and they do it very well. And then they have to go and they've got to write their webinar script, and they've got to write their sales script, and they've got to start working on whatever it is that they're going to be selling at the end of the webinar and getting that ready. So there's a lot of stuff that they still have to do. They don't need to be bogged down with setting up the bridge line and setting up all the reminder emails and creating the opt-in page and tying it all together. They've got
Right.
too many other things to do that are equally or more important, because that's the deliverable end that they have to focus on the value that they're going to deliver.
Right, exactly. That's so critical. Focusing in on the value they are going to deliver so they can create the best possible experience and ultimately increase their revenue from their efforts with what their actions
are. And I talk
So-
about this so much, and I know that people are like, God, are you done talking about value yet? No, I'm not, because it's so important that you focus on the value and the results that people are going to get, rather than how much money you're going to get from it. The money's great, and yes, you should try and have that ballpark figure and everything, but you need to be focused on that bottom line. And here's another thing, Byron, that people do too, is they focus too much time and energy on that free gift, and not enough time and energy on the high-end product. So the free gift is important. It needs to get out there, but then it's automated. It's done. Poof, bye. Don't focus so much time and energy and money and effort on that, because you want to be focusing on that thing that people are going to be paying $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $10,000 for. You need to focus more of your exactly. 60 to 90% of your income is going to come from those high-end clients. You need to be focusing the majority of your time and effort on the bottom part of your funnel, not the top part of your funnel.
Right. And that's critical, because I think people forget about that. But I have to pay for everything else. Like, well, no, get the bigger ones in, because those are the ones that are going to propel you forward, that allow you to create additional high-end programs.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's where it has to be at. So now, with that in mind, as we wrap everything up, what's the one thing that you recommend for everybody to be doing in their business so that way they can increase the success they're having online?
The very top thing that needs to be done, if you haven't already done this, is you have to sit down and figure out who your ideal client is. It can't be everybody. It can't be, well, I just want to work with all moms, or, you've got to get really kind of specific. So you've got to figure out who they are, what they like, what keeps them up at night, what do they want, what is keeping them from getting that, where are they stuck, and hit those pain points, because those, the answers to those questions are going to create your marketing material. So if you haven't already figured out your ideal client, that is absolutely the most important thing you need to do.
Right. Exactly. That is so important, because if you don't know who you're marketing to, then you might as well just be, as you put it, throwing spaghetti at the wall. So with that in mind, then, I want to thank you for coming to the Big Movement podcast today. And how can people reach out to you to learn more about what you do and ultimately see how you can help them in their business with managing all their assets?
So the best way is to just go to my website. It's Tracey, Tracey -Osborne, and that's OSBORNE.com. So Tracey-Osborne.com. And no, I'm not related to Ozzy. I get that a lot.
So much for that idea. Like, darn it. Yeah, well, better luck next time, right?
Yeah, the closest I get to that is my husband's nickname in high school was Ozzy.
Like, yeah, that's about as close as you're going to get to it. Well, definitely. So, well, Tracey, I want to thank you for coming onto the Big Movement podcast and sharing your wealth of wisdom about having someone manage your online assets so you can ultimately grow your
it was
business
my pleasure,
more.
Byron. I had a good time.
Thanks for listening to the Big Movement Podcast today. And be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Now that you've surely been inspired to take your entrepreneurial career and business to the next level, you can stop by the website and get more. And if you're ready to boost your business brand, be sure to grab your free report, 7 Easy Steps to Build Your Brand Today.